The following is a presentation of the Pro Wrestling Report. Informative, entertaining, and real since 1998.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
To scratch a major itch. So enjoy your fruity pebbles, you yabba dabba bitch.
They've killed him! And CM Punk, and I am the voice of the voiceless.
Be the man! You gotta beat the man! Woo, woo, woo! You know it. I got okey doke by little Jimmy!
Live from the Pro Wrestling Report studios in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, this is Monday Night Meltdown with your hosts, Damian Nelson and David Hero.
I'm proud to say we're doing things the Vince McMahon way.
That's the bottom line! What? Cause Stone Cold said so!
Bringing you all the latest news and views from professional wrestling, Monday Night Meltdown is on the air.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Pro Wrestling Report Monday Night Meltdown. We're live on Monday, January 16, 2012. Damian Nelson along with David Hero here to open things up and talk about what was a very active WWE Raw tonight. We saw titles change hands. We saw a guest from Hollywood. We saw a surprise return. And we saw what could be called ruthless aggression from John Cena and even Big Johnny. Tonight was an active night on WWE Raw, one for which we want to hear your feedback. We'll be taking your phone calls all night long, ladies and gentlemen, here on The Meltdown. The number, 877-317-9772. 877-317-9772. And we will go into the phone zone just in a few minutes here, and we'll be talking about more of professional wrestling, including the news desk, SmackDown, Impact, and more. We also have the conversation going on right now in the chat room here on Blog Talk Radio. Hundreds of you discussing what happened on Raw tonight and also discussing what is happening here on The Meltdown. Also on Twitter, at PWR Show on Twitter, a very active night there as well. Lots of trending topics from WWE Raw, the latest being what is happening right now, Johnny Ace. David Hero, I think I've sold it enough, but a very, very intriguing night of television on the USA Network from WWE tonight.
You know what? Raw had a whole lot of stuff going on. They're definitely on the right track for the Rumble. I mean, everything is going that direction. We're 2 weeks away from the Rumble, and it looks like there's going to be a whole lot of shenanigans in St. Louis.
And let's go over the results or the noteworthy things that happened on WWE Raw tonight. Firstly, the big return that no one caught. There were no pictures in the airport of this superstar, but Mick Foley making an appearance tonight on Raw. He comes out, kicks off the show, and announces that he wants to be a part of the Royal Rumble. That was then interrupted by Vicky Guerrero and Dolph Ziggler. Ziggler says that he wants Mick Foley to go away, which then brought out CM Punk. CM Punk interrupts and says that he and Mick are the only two guys who don't try to fit into a mold, if you will, like every other WWE star. And some active conversation between Dolph Ziggler and CM Punk and Mick Foley there until Big Johnny came out to stop the mayhem, if you will. And he actually denies Mick Foley's request to be a part of the Royal Rumble. An opening segment that saw stars really be able to, I guess, present themselves better. Most importantly, Dolph Ziggler, a solid opening segment with the inclusion of Mick Foley.
Well, it was a great segment for Dolph Ziggler because now he gets to get over on a future Hall of Famer. I mean, Mick Foley. And Dolph Ziggler can only have, they don't need him to go toe-to-toe on the microphone with CM Punk because Punk is just that over with the fans, and he has a little more carte blanche than most of the other guys that are allowed to get some mic time. So let him do a little deal with Foley. It helped set up, the main event for tonight. I mean, everything tonight was done in pieces with a build to get to that main event. They bring in Jericho, they bring in Foley, they bring in Johnny Ace. They let Punk do pipe bomb version, 3.0, I guess, if you wanted to. So, I mean, it was a solid show. Let's not forget, our main man, Brodus Clay. I mean, they got all of their big guns in tonight. I mean, every star that they wanted to showcase that isn't on the shelf injured, they got some TV time.
And 6 matches overall tonight. The first match we would see would be a rematch for the Tag Team Championships, as in Oakland, California. Just yesterday, brand new Tag Team Champions crowned in Primo and Epico. Air Boom gets a shot to get those Tag Team titles back tonight on Raw. They would fail in those efforts. And I got to give WWE credit on this. It's been a long time since we saw a house show title change, and really the most substantial one I ever remember was, I believe it was at a house show where Kevin Nash, Diesel at the time, beat Bob Backlund, was it, for the championship, or Bret Hart maybe?
Well, no, it was when Nash beat Bob Backlund at Madison Square Garden, and then also when Edge beat Jeff Jarrett right before SummerSlam. I think it was up in Toronto. So, I mean, it does happen once in a while. I mean, obviously it gave a little more urgency, a little more flavor to the tag title match tonight.
And it's so rare that it happens, it makes it so much more interesting, and I'm glad it did. And you almost would have thought that tonight it would have been the rematch to give back the titles to Air Boom, but they didn't do that. Again, these last couple of weeks of WWE television, and pretty much all that WWE has been doing, with few exceptions, has been so deliberate and so greatly executed that a lot of the feedback we're getting tonight is it was another great Raw out there. And you haven't heard that happen in weeks in succession for a very long time. So it's a good thing. And really, this is the biggest time of year for professional wrestling, as we're going into not only the Royal Rumble in just 2 weeks, but also going into WrestleMania on April 1st. But I'll go back to this point I made, I believe, last week on this very program. 6 weeks. That's how long WWE had between their last pay-per-view and the Royal Rumble. And I think we as wrestling fans are benefiting from this extended period of time they have to build these stories and these characters, as opposed to just building to the next pay-per-view, which sometimes has been in as few as 3 weeks. I, for one, am very happy as a fan that we're seeing things develop this way. One thing that may not make a lot of fans happy, though, is a championship match that didn't quite go as the Internet, I would say, might have wanted it to go. There's a brand new United States champion, David Hero, and he's the man who is a former world heavyweight champion, Jack Swagger.
You can say it's Jack Swagger. I mean,
Jack Swagger defeats Zack Ryder tonight. Not even a week after you picked up Zack Ryder on your little Minnie Mouse Club team for the draft, and now, just like you did to The Miz, you've single-handedly ruined Zack Ryder's career. David, the Internet is going to get you.
Come on, I had nothing to do with Zack Ryder losing.
Everything to do with it.
No, it's impossible.
You picked him.
Come on.
Was it not obvious going into this match that Zack Ryder was not going to walk out the champion due to the injury angle that had been played up so well since last week?
Yeah, and you got to wonder why. I mean,
something about a wheel?
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, did they lose faith in him? I mean, did he do something wrong in the back? I mean, why did they take the title off him that they built up to for so long? I mean, obviously he's going to chase for it again sooner than later. But I'll be honest, I'm shocked. I mean, who knows? Maybe he'll win it back at the Rumble, or he'll win it back at WrestleMania. Who knows? But, boy, interesting how that happens.
One scenario that some are talking about that may play out is, what if a John Cena gets his hands on that United States Championship at some point before the Rumble, which continues in this whole tract between Cena and Kane, and Cena perhaps embracing the hate. Now, of course, we saw Cena upset and taking it out on Jack Swagger and John Laurinaitis tonight on Raw, that his friend, his buddy, his broski, Zack Ryder, had lost the championship. But
you know what? John Cena is Batman to Zack Ryder being Robin. And Kane is Bane.
No, he's Kane.
That? Oh, yeah, but Kane can be Bane. How about that?
Well, I mean,
that's what it is.
It was surprising.
And Eve is Batgirl.
You know,
how it all comes together?
I'm going to ask this question. when Zack Ryder came out tonight in that arena in Anaheim, California, on the West Coast, was there something missing? Did you notice something different?
I don't know. You tell me. What was missing?
A pop.
Oh, that. Yeah, well, you know, it's hard to compete with Mickey Mouse. You know, and if he was really across the street and Pinocchio was there and Daffy Duck and everybody else, I'm sure it can't be easy for them.
We then saw a Divas matchup, and I'm not going to fault the Divas in this matchup, but Perez Hilton was involved, and it was capital brutal.
You know, and I understand Perez Hilton was there because he's one of the top bloggers on the planet, and I'm sure they got some press out of it. But do you honestly think that having Perez Hilton on there is going to move the dial one bit?
Not at all. As a matter of fact, that one moment tonight, I think, took a lot of the momentum out of the show. And really, they had to spend another 15, 20 minutes or so to get that momentum back. And ultimately, it wasn't a bad show. It was a good show overall, so I think this small segment of it will be forgotten ultimately. But at the same time, I'm not sure they needed this, and I get it. They want to be on TMZ. They want to be on all the entertainment shows and all that stuff. But, I mean, really, you've got The Rock coming up in a couple months for that.
If I'm Perez Hilton, I'm embarrassed that one of the Bellas knocked me down with damn near just a slap to the chin.
Well, yeah.
He oversold.
Well, yeah. So, all right, moving right along there. R-Truth, David Hero, talk about entertaining. R-Truth went to Disneyland, and he wonders if Pinocchio's nose growing is PG, which was hilarious, and also saying to Wade Barrett, "Hello, Governor," and referencing to Wade Barrett that he didn't know if he realized that no one could understand what he's saying, which is, of course, a play on R-Truth himself. R-Truth delivered tonight. I thought it was very entertaining.
You know, R-Truth, who would have thought that he could be so entertaining as just being so freaking crazy? I mean, good for him. He's obviously rebounded from, you know, his 30-day suspension and being stuck with The Miz. I mean, obviously he's going forward, and he's going to be a top babyface on Raw. I mean, the fans are truly behind him, and he plays up to the fans better than I ever thought he could.
It was very entertaining, and that would lead to several other people getting involved, including The Miz attacking R-Truth. And as we said, Wade Barrett had come down. Sheamus makes a save, and talk about pops. That crowd was totally into Sheamus. Teddy Long then comes out, and everyone expects that in the SmackDown way of things, Teddy Long is going to make it a tag team match. But no, in the spirit of the Royal Rumble, Thaddeus makes it a Battle Royal, which saw R-Truth win that Battle Royal. And again, as you said, that stink that may have on him in some people's minds as a result of his suspension for a wellness policy violation, clearly gone as R-Truth gets what I consider to be a big win tonight.
It is a big win, but you know what? When the guy gets over every week the same way Zack Ryder did every single week, you have no choice but to do something with him. And R-Truth on Martin Luther King Day gets a big victory. How about that?
I don't understand the relation.
Well, they're not related. I never said that.
Oh. Also on Raw, from there, as I said, John Cena, a little bit upset. John Laurinaitis makes it a matchup between John Cena and Jack Swagger. Never said it was going to be for the United States Championship, but ultimately it would not matter because the match would never start as John Cena took out his aggression on Jack Swagger before the bell rang, and then that was interrupted by Kane, who asked John Cena again to embrace the hate. Another solid week of development in this whole John Cena will he or won't he drama going into the Rumble, and more importantly, going into February's Elimination Chamber and then WrestleMania. This was well done.
Well, I don't know. You know what? Who was it well done for? It wasn't well done for Jack Swagger, the guy that just became the new U.S. champion and goes out there and gets beaten from pillar to post by John Cena.
It was well done for the Cena-Kane story, I think.
Well, exactly. But you know what? They could have done it with anybody else. Why not Otunga? He would have been a far better choice than putting on the main event.
Well, somebody had to get pinned in the main event, didn't they?
Right, exactly. champion? Why crush him so quickly? I mean, it just devalued the title that that Dolph Ziggler had built up over the past few months, and then they put it on, Zack Ryder. It just, some things I just don't get. I mean, Jack's what, I know some of you don't like him, but he is a super talented guy. He's got good size. He can go out there, and he's had great matches, with John Cena and Randy Orton, and even Punk for that matter. Let the guy have a little bit of a run. Let him do something. Why beat him so badly with John Cena, of all people?
Well, one thing that was embraced this week, at least from what we could see and the feedback we were getting, was the Funkasaurus. Brodus Clay, back for another week on Raw. We saw him on SmackDown on Friday as well. He's been doing house shows on the WWE Tour as well. He's got a new club-style intro, I'd like to say. The girls are wearing less. Brodus gets a squash on JTG, who's a great wrestler, by the way, JTG is. Tonight on Raw, week 2 of Brodus Clay, seems like more people are getting behind the Funkasaurus.
You know what? They are getting behind the Funkasaurus. My only concern is that he has to start doing more than 4 or 5 moves. I mean, he's going to have to put some time in pretty soon.
You don't like the
No, I like everything that they're doing with him. It's just that, okay, they can't have the same cookie-cutter match every week. They're going to have to, do a little bit more with that. I mean, the amazing thing about Brodus Clay is obviously last week the crowd was uncertain about him. Now this week, I think the crowd was far more behind him. But what's even more interesting is I found out that a certain main eventer, one of the guys from, let's call it a headliner, future Hall of Famer in the company, is completely against the whole Brodus Clay push. But I'll talk about that on primetime 5 more minutes this week. I'm not going to give that one away yet. But interesting to see if Brodus Clay is going to get derailed or not. I mean, you know what? The guy is over. The fans like him. He can dance. But it looks like they're going to slowly build him up to have an undefeated streak going into maybe WrestleMania. Who knows?
Well, I, for one, as you know, last week, right here on the Spirit program, I endorsed Brodus Clay, which means nothing but big things are ahead for him. Unlike you ruining the career of Zack Ryder, who lost his United States Championship tonight. He can't change a tire, he can't satisfy his girl Eve, and he can't keep the gold around his waist. David Hero...
did you just bury Zack Ryder?
I did not just bury Zack Ryder. I just went over the facts of everything that's happened since you picked him up for your Super Friends team.
You know what's the funny thing, and I tweeted about it earlier. If I'm Zack Ryder, I drive away on my rims. I don't know. I'm not changing a tire to get away from a mad killer. I mean, especially because Zack Ryder must have direct auto insurance.
Well,
I mean, all the wrestlers have it. So
we are going to.
And hey, Damien, you know all about getting tires. I mean, it can't be that expensive to get a new tire, can it?
Yeah, actually, it is, David. The next matchup was the main event, and it was a 6-man tag, and we found out earlier that it would be Chris Jericho's first match tonight on WWE Raw. You sort of had this inkling that shenanigans would occur, and they did. But it was Daniel Bryan, Chris Jericho, CM Punk versus Mark Henry, Dolph Ziggler, and David Otunga. Now, before that matchup, Daniel Bryan would address the situation from SmackDown where AJ was plowed over by the Big Show, and we'll talk more about that when we get to the SmackDown segment of the program with Matthew Thomas when he joins us. But this 6-man tag match saw Chris Jericho make his smiley face entrance. And let's back up a minute, actually. How about when Jericho was in the office with Johnny Ace, and he came in, smiled, lights went dark, and the jacket lit up. I mean, I tweeted about it earlier, and that jacket was worth 1,000 words. It's so corny and funny, it's borderline hilarious. I'm loving Chris Jericho, and I think when he got that hot tag tonight and then immediately walked out while smiling, he just solidified what he's doing, and I don't think it's inevitable at all that he's going to talk. But when he does talk, I still hope that first conversation he has is with or about CM Punk.
Well, it's going to have to be about CM Punk. I mean, he's the one guy that they're building it towards, and they laid the groundwork. I mean, when he bailed on his team, you know, if Punk wasn't so distracted with Johnny Ace tonight, he would have cut a promo on Jericho, but he will eventually get there. You know what I'm a little concerned about is eventually the fans may just accept the fact that Jericho's being a goof, and they may start to cheer it, and they may not boo him. And then what happens? I mean, Punk is doing such a great job of being the angry babyface that this whole thing could backfire. They could boo Punk and cheer Jericho.
Yeah. Well, the match did see Chris Jericho walk out, as I mentioned, and then out to replace him came Mick Foley. Mick Foley, who ultimately pins David Otunga, but out comes Big Johnny, who reverses the decision, saying he never allowed Mick Foley to be in the match in the first place. Well, then that set CM Punk off on a whirlwind tangent against Johnny Ace. First time I think we ever heard it being mentioned that he was a brother of Road Warrior Animal. But CM Punk didn't pull any punches in talking to Johnny Ace tonight, and that then sent Laurinaitis off on a tirade, the likes of which we've not seen him deliver. Character development tonight, I think, was the buzzword on Raw because we saw so much deeper into so many people tonight that, I mean, they really did, I think, sink and draw everybody into the program this evening. And I think it was solidified in that closing segment.
Yeah, because you know what? They're not rushing to get to a pay-per-view right away.
Exactly.
That's the good thing about it. You know, they're not trying to get, you know, to another pay-per-view within 3 weeks and trying to establish who's going to be who and who's going to be where and who you're going to cheer for, who you're going to hate, and all that. I mean, I think that the schedule has been favorable. I mean, I don't know if it's exactly what the E wanted by having 6 weeks in between, but it's definitely working. You're not giving away stuff for free on Raw. You're not giving away stuff you should see on Raw on a pay-per-view. And you know what? When it finally all comes together at the Rumble, I think it might be a pretty solid show because they're making you wait for things. You're finally going to see John Cena fight Kane. Right now they've done a good job of keeping the two of them separated.
You know what they could have done tonight, though? They could have had this be the go-home show going into a pay-per-view because Johnny Ace said, yes, he is going to screw CM Punk at the Royal Rumble. And I really think that ending was so... Now, I'm not talking about necessarily going into the Rumble because they haven't announced most of that, but the end of the show and this overall feel of the show tonight really had a go-home feel to it. We still got 2 weeks, which makes me excited for not just the 2 subsequent weeks of Raw, but even SmackDown coming up over the next 2 weeks as well. WWE's on a roll.
And you're more excited about Jericho just coming out, smiling, and showing off his abs every week.
I don't give a damn about his abs, but I am happy to see him come out and to just entertain, but not say a word all at the same time. I think it's great. I mean, again, it's more of that character development. And what have we talked about for a very long time? It's intrigue that needs to be built. People are intrigued as to what is going to happen with Chris Jericho. They want to know more about this Brodus Clay character that everybody was talking about Tuesday at the water cooler. They want to know what happened with the tag team championships because they heard they changed hands. So how did that happen? What's going on? They're building a lot of intrigue around WWE right now, and I think they're doing a great job at it.
You know, what if Jericho doesn't say a word, goes into the Rumble, wins the Rumble, and then cuts his promo Monday night saying he's the best in the world because he won the Royal Rumble?
I love that. I absolutely love that. And you know what's really up in the air? Who's going to win the Royal Rumble? I don't think it's as obvious as it's been in past years. Because look at who's not going to be in it.
It's not going to be Cena. You know, he's not going to be it. Randy Orton, that's a coin flip if he's even going to be there or not. I don't... Who knows? Wade Barrett's not going to do it. Maybe Sheamus. But, you know, I think if you're going to do it, let it be Jericho. Don't let him get in the ring until the Rumble. Let him win it, and then let him challenge CM Punk.
A couple of weeks ago, we talked about the fact that CM Punk may be being looked at as a person who can't maintain momentum enough into WrestleMania as the WWE Champion, so he may not have that title. We also were looking at a situation where Randy Orton was around. and things were, at least at that time, looking a lot more clear as to what may happen at the Royal Rumble. We also heard on Superstars last week that I think Matt Stryker mentioned that competitors in all the matches at the Rumble will also be able to compete in the Rumble. And we found out tonight that John Cena will take on Kane one-on-one at the Royal Rumble event. Still allows, though, both of them to be as a part of the actual Royal Rumble match. It's not as obvious as it was even a couple of weeks ago, because you got to think about, okay, if Punk is a champion, who's he going to wrestle? If Mark Henry was the champion, who was he going to wrestle? If Daniel Bryan is the champion, who's he going to wrestle? So you can sort of put those pieces together, but you really can't right now, and that's what's great. Again, that intrigue is built.
You know, and I don't want to go talking about booking the Rumble, but you would hope that Kane would take Cena out, so that he can't come into the Rumble and be a part of it. That Kane just beats Cena down, that it becomes a real violent match where Kane tries to get the hate out of John Cena. Or maybe, who knows, maybe it's like a Luke Skywalker kind of thing when Kane just taking a beating from John Cena, trying to pull all the evil out of him. That's going to be interesting, but I think the outcome of that match, I don't believe John Cena will wind up in the Rumble match itself.
So you think Kane's going to be trying to get the poison out?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All the Stern listeners out there know what that means. Well, overall...
Yeah, listen, this show is kind of PG sometimes. I'm not going to let you pull your little shenanigans, your little potty humor, all that kind of stuff, and use it on me. Come on now.
There's nothing wrong with getting the poison out. It was just a saying that was used at one point on the Howard Stern program.
You are implying that Kane may have relations with John Cena.
No, I would actually be implying that John Cena may have relations with a device, but that's neither here nor there. That's neither here nor there. We are going to be taking your phone calls, as I said, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of you on hold right now. The number to call in is 877-317-9772. But first, we're going to do something new here in the Pro Wrestling Report. We're going to go around the room, if you will, and talk to all of our correspondents about what they thought about Raw. I guess the one big takeaway that we got from Raw this tonight on the USA Network. And let's start with you, Meathead, as we go around the table here in the roundabout. Meathead, your takeaway from Raw.
I'm a little confused at what show I joined on here, because I got Hero talking dirty, Damian Nelson talking dirty, and me trying to keep it clean and PG. What program is this?
I didn't say anything dirty.
The thing I take away the most, obviously, is the Funkasaurus, man. He did add a couple new dance moves. That's really all the moves that he added, Dave. And what they're going to do is they keep building up a little bit slower, and they're going to start adding stuff. I just wonder how many more guys you haven't seen on TV in a while, can they feed him before they have to give him real guys to wrestle? I mean, Santino's got to be next, right?
Well, no, because Santino's a babyface. They're going to find these guys that are a little bit, uneventful and slowly bring... I'm sure an Uso is going to be next.
Okay, yeah. How many guys do they have left to feed him?
Oh, they got the old Nexus guys. They got Heath Slater. They got,
endorsed.
Justin. Yeah, well, we'll see how well he does. But, yeah, believe me, they got a whole bunch of guys that they can use.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Meathead.
They got a whole farm system in Tampa called FCW to bring guys up.
Let's continue around the roundabout here, and let's go to Matthew Thomas, our SmackDown correspondent. Matthew Thomas, your big takeaway from Raw this week.
What really struck me was that opening segment and how much Dolph Ziggler really looked like he belonged in the ring with that promo on Mick Foley and with WWE Champion CM Punk. He looked comfortable. He looked like he is without a doubt a main event player.
And you do realize, Matthew, I know you're relatively new to the program, but you do realize that Dolph Ziggler has been endorsed by one Damian Nelson.
That's what I kind of heard through the grapevine, yeah.
But let's not forget he's also on Team Super Friends.
That happened after the fact. Let's go to the roundabout, continue along the roundabout. Thank you, Matthew, and let's talk to Dwayne Williams, our TNA correspondent. Dwayne, your takeaway from Raw tonight.
My takeaway, I really enjoyed the overrun segment. As you said, the character development with John Laurinaitis' character and CM Punk going in with the pipe bomb talk, so to speak. So I really enjoyed that. element of the program.
Thank you, Dwayne. And Dwayne, I understand you're going to be filling in for Linda Kay tonight with the news in just a little while. Linda is on a beach in Mexico.
Wow, absolutely.
And by the way, remember, she's on a beach in Mexico.
Ah, I gotcha.
And remember, her calendar is out. She's Miss October in the Coyote Ugly 2012 calendar. We got to get those up in the PWR shop. David, if you had one thing...
Wait. Is Linda wearing the new Hammered T-shirt down in Mexico?
Oh, she absolutely is, but not as a T-shirt. Thank you, Meathead, Matthew, and Dwayne. It's going to be time to hop into the phone zone in just a minute to hear your thoughts on tonight's WWE Raw. From there, we'll talk about SmackDown last week, go to the news desk, then talk about Impact, and then more of your phone calls. We're going to take a time out here on Monday Night Meltdown. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on Blog Talk Radio.
Monday Night Meltdown continues after this, live on Blog Talk Radio. There's only one place to get the latest from pro wrestling, including the only place to get 100% verified wrestling news. PWRshow.com. PWRshow.com, where you'll never find pop-ups or misleading headlines. Watch or listen to all of our latest TV and radio broadcasts on demand. And get caught up on wrestling news between episodes. PWRshow.com is the cleanest, friendliest, and most fan-friendly source for wrestling news on the web. Don't forget to follow PWR right here on Blog Talk Radio right now. Be reminded of upcoming episodes and never miss Blog Talk Radio's most popular sports show. Follow PWR now. They know their way around the wrestling ring, but certainly not a whole hell of a lot about being in it. This is the Pro Wrestling Report Radio. Stop stalking your ex and be our friend on Facebook and join the tremendous worldwide discussion. Facebook.com/Pro Wrestling Report. Covering pro wrestling like no other. This is Monday Night Meltdown live on Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome back to PWR Monday Night Meltdown, the number one sports show on all of Blog Talk Radio. And we want to thank all of you for tuning in each and every week, each and every Monday, and each and every episode of the Pro Wrestling Report. We do this for you. We couldn't do it without you, and we appreciate all your amazing conversation in the chat room right now. Hundreds of you discussing Raw and this broadcast in the chat room here on Blog Talk Radio right now and on Twitter, at PWR Show on Twitter. We appreciate those of you who follow us there, and on our Facebook page, Facebook.com/Pro Wrestling Report. Lots of great comments there about WWE Raw and the happenings that went on there tonight. But now it's time to hear from those of you who want to call in and share your voices with us. We're going to hop into the phone zone, and there's a couple things you got to remember while you're in the phone zone so that we can make this go as quickly as possible. So be sure to take a listen to this.
The Monday Night Meltdown phone zone is now open. Give us a call live at 1-877-317-9772. And be sure to press 1 to get in where you fit in and be part of tonight's live show. We'll call on you by your area code, and when you hear it, tell us your name and where you're calling from. Then proceed with your question or comment.
And it's as simple as that, ladies and gentlemen, and we've got several of you waiting on hold. Let's go to our first caller, who's calling us from the 517 area code. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Well, I used to be Eric from Michigan, but I have since moved to Planet Funk.
Ah, tremendous. Is it hot or cold there?
It is, it's okay right now. It's nice and funky.
Have you seen the backup dancers? It's smoking out there. What are you talking about?
Well, they did have to take... They did have to take off some of their clothes, so yeah.
Totally. It gets pretty funky. But anyways, gentlemen, I've come up with a game for you guys, or at least for the fans, Every time Damian Nelson says, we'll take your call in a couple of minutes, take a drink.
Well, I'm trying to prepare the audience properly. You've got dozens of people sitting here waiting on hold. I want to let them know. It's all about the tease.
So, we've had a week to digest this Brodus Clay thing. Anybody that was against it warm up to it yet? Mainly David Hero, who should not be talking about John Cena being Batman.
It's not a real superhero, so it'll be fine.
David, were you against it last week? Did I miss that?
I didn't like it for the first 25 seconds, and then I liked it afterwards.
Yeah.
Once it all resonated with me, I'm like, hey, you know what? I like it. I like it.
There was a lot that was said on 5 More Minutes this week, which is the extended edition of the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime, available on our website, pwrshow.com. One of those things that was said was, if you don't see the brilliance in this Brodus Clay thing, you may not be as smart as you think you are as a wrestling fan, because there's money written all over that thing. And I think that the difference from last Monday to tonight shows how relatively easy it's going to be for fans to embrace and just sit back and have fun with the Brodus Clay character.
Yeah, I mean, when I see the Brodus Clay character, for me it's kind of like a cross between Rikishi and a little bit of adorable Adrian Adonis. You know,
wow, that's going way back.
Oh yeah, and just Google that guy or YouTube him. But I mean, I think that, you know, it's two eccentric characters, two guys that were legitimate, you know, badasses in Adonis and Rikishi, and now you got the same kind of deal with Brodus Clay. And you watch, I mean, he's going to get over, and he's going to be over as a big babyface.
Let's go to our next phone call, calling us from the 720 area code. Caller, your name and location, please.
My name's Robert, and I'm calling from Littleton, Colorado.
Hey, Robert.
First thing is, I think that would be a good fantasy matchup, Adrian Adonis versus Brodus Clay. Just an idea there.
Hey, I'll go with that. Adorable Adrian Adonis. What was it, WrestleMania 3, David? Was he involved with that one? Or was
it was him and... No, it was Piper and Adonis in Piper's very first retirement match.
That's when he got his haircut, did Adonis?
Absolutely. Yep.
All right, Robert, anything else for us?
Yeah, the second thing is I'm really digging R-Truth. I think it's a nice change of pace on everything that's going on Raw. I just think the guy's highly entertaining, and he's been really rolling with everything, and it just adds a different aspect to the show every week.
That it definitely does, and, you know, I have not been very favorable as it pertains to R-Truth over the last few years. But, you know, David, you said it earlier. He has embraced this, and who would have ever thought that he would be as over as he is without saying, what's up, as he walked down to the ring?
Well, I mean, it's because he's being a character. I mean, that's what wrestling has missed, and the fans are embracing it. They like a little bit of the kooky characters that they're coming up with now.
You know, it's almost like we went through an era that WWE has quickly backtracked on. That era being the Mizes, the Zigglers, the Ryders, the Daniel Bryans of the world, even the CM Punks of the world. Great guys, great talents, great personalities, but where's the character? There's no character in any of those people I just mentioned. They have nuances, I guess you can call it, that make them unique. But now look at the Sheamuses, the Wade Barretts. Well, and Wade Barrett may even fall into that category, except for the fact he doesn't look like a normal guy. But now Brodus Clay, you got Kane back. It seems like there's a distinct change in direction in WWE, and they're not ignoring those other guys, but they're bringing in those that will well round out the talent pool overall.
Now, I'm not saying that Ron Killings or R-Truth or K-Quick is like this guy, but remember when Austin turned heel? He was a little bit goofier.
What? Oh, yeah.
And then he had the whole what thing and the badges and all that kind of stuff. It's almost, it reminds me a little bit of what R-Truth is doing right now. A little bit off the wall, a little bit crazy, playing off of the whats, you know, being the baby face, but you know he can flip at any single time, you know, at any second.
Yeah, and it's really WWE, I guess, was one-dimensional to a degree. And you can't lose sight on the fact that everybody's talking about how great a Raw it was tonight, and you still look at the criticism that some levy against the fact that who their champions are right now, and that those champions aren't necessarily characters. And speaking
one of
the
three is no longer a champion. Let's not forget that either now, amigo.
Woo, woo, woo. Uh-oh. Let's go to our next caller, calling us from the 574 area code. Caller from the 574, your name and location, please.
Hey, this is Rob from Mishawaka. How you guys doing?
Fantastic. What do you have for us?
I got a little beef with John Laurinaitis.
Okay. Now you know he's sick of not getting any respect.
I know. 2 points that kind of go with each other. The segment where he told Zack Ryder that he just got his medical file.
Uh-huh.
You know, Triple H got removed from running Raw because 2 guys beat up 2 other guys, and it was called an unsafe working environment.
Right.
But John Laurinaitis is letting people who aren't medically cleared wrestle. So I don't know if
he's the heel. He's supposed to do that kind of stuff. You know, Triple H was the babyface.
And let's not forget, Rob, that whole walkout on Triple H thing was one of the most laughable things I've seen in the last 5 years of wrestling. It was such a joke for the reason you just mentioned, quote-unquote, unsafe working environment. Give me a break. It's professional wrestling. So I don't think the sensibility of that is even there in the first place.
Right, but I watched that and I'm thinking, okay, something's got to change because they're bringing it up. And then I watched the last segment.
Yeah.
Where he openly said that he was going to screw CM Punk. That got me thinking that if they're planning on Triple H and Undertaker at WrestleMania, they need to bring Triple H back into storylines. So why not have him call John Laurinaitis out on admitting that he's going to go and screw CM Punk, and then bring in Mick Foley as special enforcer for the Rumble match.
Yeah, and thank you for that call, Rob. I'm not sure if there's any value at all for a special enforcer during a Rumble match, and I don't think Triple H needs to be anywhere near the ring or WWE television until The Undertaker comes back, or maybe he's the reason that The Undertaker does come back. Let's not forget, this all took 1 month's time last year. Undertaker came back on February 21st. He was gone come WrestleMania. So he was only there for about a month and a couple of days, or a cup of coffee, as some people would say. Those two will sell their match without needing to be there at this point, or probably not until well after or just after Elimination Chamber. So we'll see what happens with those two going forward. But, the question that's really out there is how do you handle or how do you insert a Mick Foley into this whole dynamic? And I think they did it perfectly tonight because while he could have just come in and said, I'm going to be in the Rumble, they made a complete story out of it. And I thought that was tremendous.
Mick Foley got buried tonight, bro, amigo.
How so?
Johnny Ace hasn't physically assaulted anybody.
Oh, but come on. Even if he was buried, it didn't
7, 8 months. And Mick Foley, the hardcore icon, the 3-time WWE champion, one punch goes down from a guy.
He hit him with the microphone.
Hold on. From the guy that CM Punk said was talentless, never got over, boring, vanilla, everything. And that's the guy that knocks out Mick Foley.
I think you're digging too deep. I don't think so. Even if it was a quote-unquote
aerial, it's facts. It's right there in front of you.
It didn't take. There's not a soul out there who believes he got buried, other than you, in my opinion. I don't think so at all.
Okay.
He hit him with the microphone, the hard end, not the soft end, David. That hurts.
That makes a difference.
I've been in the ring before.
Mick Foley was hit in the head with a chair 10 times by The Rock and never said, I quit.
13 years ago.
Doesn't matter. Still the same head.
He was dizzy from Space Mountain.
Okay. Hey, you know what? I'm just pointing out facts. That's what I do. I present the facts. You can spin it however you want, but I'm sure there are more people out there that agree with me than agree with you.
See, I'm not seeking agreement. I'm simply sharing my opinion, which is I thought Mick Foley was used perfectly tonight. I thought he added such an amazing dimension to that whole story between Punk, Laurinaitis, and even Ziggler. I thought it was great, even if he doesn't come back, which clearly I think he's going to be a part of the program again next week. But I didn't think anything deeper of the fact that he got taken out by Johnny Ace because he was angry. He had ruthless aggression, and he hit him with the microphone, the tough end of it. I want to make one clarification. Rob, who had called us a moment ago, just sent a tweet reminding us that he was talking about the WWE title match, having Mick Foley as the enforcer versus along with Johnny Ace as a special guest referee. There could definitely be some value in that as well. Thank you for that call, Rob, and let's take one more phone call as we need to hop into the SmackDown news in just a minute, but we're going to go to the 269 area code. Caller from the 269, you're live. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is David from Michigan.
Hey, David from Michigan. What do you have for us?
I really enjoy. I think R-Truth is just tremendous.
Hashmark, tremendous.
Yes, Hashmark. But I want to talk about, people keep complaining about John Laurinaitis. Ever since he's taken over, Raw has been better than it was when Triple H was on, I think. And people hate him, but that's what makes a good heel general manager. Everyone hated Bischoff, too.
Yeah. Valid point, I think, and I got to give, especially after tonight, John Laurinaitis some credit. David, I don't think it's that easy to be as bad as he was, and the fact that he was as bad as he was makes him that much more either hated, loved, endured, or whatever it may be, but at least the fans have a reaction to him. It wasn't Adam Lee bad. It wasn't Teddy Long entertaining. It wasn't Triple H somewhat boring, is what I considered his run to be, but this is somewhat of a new character that we've seen in charge of things on WWE television.
Well, Johnny Ace is finally getting his main event run. It only took him 30 years to get there. And I'm sure he has played out these events in his mind many, many times. I don't know. Good for Johnny Ace. He's developed into a pretty good character, and I think that they can make some money with him and Punk.
Let's take one more phone call here in this first entry into the phone zone, and we're going to go to the 262 area code. Caller from the 262, you're live.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, this is Sean from Waukesha.
Hello, Sean from Waukesha.
What's up?
Not much at all. What do you have for us this week?
Not much, but can I just plug one thing really quick?
Plug?
Yeah, because I am a blogger.
Okay. Why don't you hop into our chat room here on Blog Talk Radio and plug it there? We got hundreds of people there listening.
It's Perez Hilton's illegitimate kid calling in.
We got 90 minutes, and somebody wants to call and plug? I mean, go into the chat room for that. We appreciate you listening, Sean from Waukesha.
Speaking of plugs, I got the Heroettes coming on this week's primetime, just so you know. Absolutely. Well, you and Andy, had to do your little gimmicky thing and try to, dance on my segment of the show. I wasn't even realizing you guys were there.
We were trying to make your segment watchable.
And you know what? Here's what I'm thinking. It's like, you know what? Let me get some real backup dancers. So I made a few phone calls, and the Heroettes will debut on PWR show primetime on Saturday night.
Are you paying for this talent?
Well, yeah, I got the company, what is it, Platinum Amex you got? Looked like a charm, bro. Fantastic.
I want to thank
It'll show up as I think CraigslistMilwaukee.com is where, but it'll be fine.
I could always dispute charges, Anyways, remember, Andy's in the chat room tonight, by the way, under the name of Damien's Stooge. I didn't give him that name, by the way. He's my assistant. And he's having some fun conversing in there amongst our chatters. Several hundred people still in the chat room. Great discussion going on there, too, especially about plugs. Speaking of plugs, why the hell wouldn't we just plug our stuff, David here? Oh, time's right, huh? Brand new shirts at the PWR shop. Somebody Call My Mama. Shenanigans. Hammered. All new shirts. Available right now at PWRshow.com. Support the Pro Wrestling Report by supporting our merchandise. Again, at PWRshow.com. We are going to now hop into SmackDown news with Matthew Thomas and hear all about what happened last Friday night on SmackDown, including more details on that whole Daniel Bryan Big Show situation.
Monday Night Meltdown continues with a look back at last week's WWE SmackDown broadcast in the SmackDown Meltdown.
And joining us now is PWR correspondent Matthew Thomas. Matthew, take it away. Tell us about what happened last Friday night on Sci-Fi.
Good evening. SmackDown was indeed the Daniel Bryan story Friday night. We opened with Daniel Bryan down to the ring for a promo, and he is in full heel mode. He comes out to a chorus of boos, and there were several rounds of "You Suck" chants. Tells us that he doesn't want to have to tell his future grandchildren that he retained the title by disqualification as he did the previous week, and looks forward to battling the Big Show as he is indeed a fighting champion. He calls for Mark Henry's suspension, which ultimately brings Mark Henry out to inform us that he's been banned from ringside by SmackDown General Manager Teddy Long, and that if he is a good boy and doesn't interfere in the match tonight, he will indeed get a title shot on SmackDown next week. And like I said, it was a lot of Daniel Bryan on SmackDown Friday night. Had a lot of interaction with his new love interest, AJ.
When did that all happen? I missed something, Matthew. When did they officially become an item? I don't read I don't go to TZ and such. I'm not up on all those entertainment news, who's screwing who and all that.
Yeah, well, I think if you check the Perez Hilton blog regularly, there was pretty good coverage on there.
Let's all talk about blogs and stuff tonight. Come on.
Perez Hilton.
Killing me? So we've had several different segments over the last couple of weeks with Daniel Bryan and AJ, but it was the relationship, I guess, was made official this week, as at one point she even professes her love to Daniel Bryan in a backstage segment. And it was, I tell you, it was one of the things that's really gotten to me over the Daniel Bryan title run is that I understand, you know, having a cowardly heel champion. I enjoy heels, you know. I'm really a big fan of your typical, you know, cowardly heel, but it seems like they have gone out of their way, you know, to make him look weak and unbelievable. We, you know, even had a segment backstage where AJ confronts the Big Show, basically asking him not to beat up her boyfriend.
Yeah,
that happens to Meathead all the time.
Wow.
It's not. Wait a minute. What happened?
Hey, you're up on the Impact spot. Hush now. Let's go.
Oh, Matthew, continue. I can't wait to hear what Cody did.
Yeah, and of course we had a segment where, you know, he basically tells AJ that he'll never let any harm come to her, and then of course the replay that you saw on Raw tonight where you know, she basically kind of go and conspire about something, which they're, you know, ultimately alluding to the fact that, you know, basically he's involved with, you know, setting up the pick that she set for him in the match outside where Big Show ran over her. But
here's the one thing I thought about though during that, Matthew, is back at Summer Survivor Series 1996, JR, Vince McMahon, and Sonny had a great exchange at ringside when Mark Merrow came down with Sable. And the question JR asked, which got Sonny going, was, why would you bring a woman with you to ringside anyways? What purpose does it serve? End quote. And nobody, you know, shouldn't Bryan be getting the blame for this? If he hadn't brought his little girlfriend down there and not put her behind the barricade, Big Show would not have accidentally bumped into her as he was running around the ring. You could almost turn that blame around, it seems.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's ultimately where they're going with that, which, you know, I can't say. I'm glad there's some character for Daniel Bryan now. You know, they're at least going in a direction with him. but it just seems like, basically this whole thing has been built around the fact that he is unable as a champion to, beat a main eventer like the Big Show.
Mm-hmm.
But the actual match itself, it was enjoyable. I mean, I enjoy pretty much everything he does, every match he's in. He could wrestle steel chair as far as I'm concerned, and it'd still be a good match. We actually had a very good-looking spot where he comes off the top turnbuckle, and Big Show actually delivers a nasty spear with Brian's head actually coming very close to hitting the bottom rope. It was kind of a scary-looking spot there, and then it eventually spills to that side, and, of course, we have the the spot that we've seen replayed multiple times by now where Big Show takes out AJ, and, of course, the match comes to an abrupt end, and Brian and Big Show walk back there. AJ's carried off on the stretcher, which ultimately results in Daniel Bryan calling the Big Show a bastard, and with the Big Show in tears as we go to black on SmackDown, which actually what's noteworthy is this has been the week of tears in the WWE with Jericho crying earlier Monday on Raw, and now with Big Show crying in SmackDown.
It's a sensitive bunch in WWE right now.
Yeah, really tapping into the sensitive side of things, no doubt. It's going to be interesting to see where this all plays out. Like I said, I just I like they've got direction with Daniel Bryan now, but it's concerning to me. I feel like they've really made him look weak and not a really legitimate champion.
One thing that makes it obvious that they're up to something or there's something they want to get over is the fact that they spent so much time on it on Raw tonight. They built it over the course of the evening, and then Daniel Bryan cutting that promo again. There's definitely an end game here, and keep in mind, we don't have an announcement as to what's happening on the SmackDown thing at the Royal Rumble. I would venture to say you're probably going to see that this Friday on SmackDown, but they're definitely up to something and want to make sure that the fans, not just on SmackDown but also on Raw, know what's cooking over on the blue team.
You know what, though? I do have an announcement to make for this week's primetime, though. I have a huge update on Cody Rhodes.
Oh, do you really?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just say that Cody and I have chatted, and we've both come to a mutual understanding, and we can talk about that more on Saturday night as well.
No, let's tell the truth. Cody called you out. Did he or did he not?
No, he didn't call me out.
He called you out. He stepped up
did not.
and he called you out.
Cody was back in action again on SmackDown, actually delivering a bilingual promo for all the Spanish-speaking fans out there in the SmackDown audience. A bilingual promo, just rendered closed captioning basically useless.
I did not know that Cody Rhodes was able to speak a different language. Look at that. His dimensions just continue to multiply and multiply and multiply. That's why he's here.
Cody Rhodes is the biggest star on SmackDown right now.
And he stated that he's attempting to pull an Ultimate Warrior and hold both the Continental and World Heavyweight Championships, saying that he would be the Royal Rumble winner. And for the second week in a row, Cody Rhodes with a clean win, this time over Ezekiel Jackson in the middle of the ring.
Matthew, let's speculate for a moment. David, let's speculate for a moment as well. If Cody Rhodes were to win the Royal Rumble, that would be buzzworthy for sure. I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell of it happening because I don't see what sense it makes down the road.
I think Cody has a chance to win the Rumble. How could you say that?
Have you been drinking?
No, not at all. I told you, Cody and I chatted, we talked, we figured some stuff out, and you know what? Maybe I wasn't right about Cody all these years.
Wow.
Maybe there's something more there to the guy.
This is a monumental night. Matthew, I don't know if you heard this, but, and I quote from David Hero a moment ago, Cody Rhodes is the biggest star on SmackDown right now. That's what he's
the Intercontinental Champion. Oh, the biggest star is Big Show because he's 7 feet tall. But yeah. Interesting stuff. That's what I thought I heard.
Wow, I'm surprised. I'm shocked, and thank you for coming to the right side, David Hero, and starting to really embrace these endorsed talents.
I'm on my side. It's always my side.
Matthew, just a few moments left here to talk about SmackDown before we go to the news desk. Summarize the rest of the highlights and lowlights for the show for us.
Yeah, well, I got again. My low point is just the booking of Daniel Bryan. I feel like he's been booked weak since he won the title. And as far as an overall highlight, I got to say that I did enjoy Santino's first real week as assistant to SmackDown general manager Theodore Long. I felt like that, it kind of provides a good break in the monotony that can be too long from week after week. So I thought that added a nice little element to the show.
I think it's going to be a good run with Santino in a spot on weekly television where he can use comedic talents. And working alongside with Teddy Long, I think it's going to be great for SmackDown. And as you said last week, it was a great start with those two. And Santino's very talented. SmackDown, while it took a small ratings hit last week, which I don't think is anything for anybody to worry about, has really been a great program over the last few weeks, and one that people are tuning in to watch. Now you might have 4 or 5 million people watching Raw each week, about 3 or 4 million watching SmackDown, about 1 or 2 million watching Impact. It's still good overall numbers for professional wrestling, and still great numbers for SmackDown on Friday nights, where they're doing big things on Sci-Fi. And this Friday night, what do we have? It's Daniel Bryan and the Big Show again?
Yes, it is. Or actually, Daniel Bryan and Mark Henry we have this week.
Oh, now, who knows? I wonder, and I'm intrigued to hear what you guys have to say, Matthew and David. How much longer would Daniel Bryan hold that World Championship?
Oh, to be perfectly honest with you at this point, I'd be surprised if he holds it through Royal Rumble.
David?
Yeah, I think he's going to last through the Rumble, but drop it at the Chamber.
In Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And for those of you that don't know, if you watched Pro Wrestling Report Primetime on My 24 Milwaukee, starting last week, we started giving out tickets to WWE Elimination Chamber. And guess what? We're going to be doing that every week leading up to Elimination Chamber. All you need to do is watch and win. Answer the week's trivia question, send in an email, and qualify to win those tickets to WWE Elimination Chamber, the Pro Wrestling Report, giving you a chance to go to the first WWE pay-per-view in Milwaukee in a very long time. And that happens each week on Prime Time. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us for the SmackDown Meltdown. We look forward to hearing from you again next week with the results from the blue side of things in the wrestling world.
Thank you.
And now it's time to find out what's going on outside of what we've talked about so far here on Monday Night Meltdown. It's time to go to the news. And as we said, Linda Kay is out of town, so Dwayne Williams is going to be filling in for her tonight. And let's go to the news.
Brought to you by PWRshow.com, the only wrestling website with verified pro wrestling news, along with the first look at all of our episodes. Let's go to the news desk with the lovely Linda Kay.
As we said, Linda not with us this week. She's in Mexico tanning on a beach. And Dwayne Williams is going to be doing a very capable job of filling in for Linda. So, Dwayne, I'll let you take it away. I'm interested to hear what you have to share with us this week for the news desk.
Thank you. Welcome to the PWR desk for news desk for Monday, January 16, 2012. Of course, I'm Dwayne Williams, filling in for Linda Kay. Let's get into this week's wrestling headlines brought to you by PWRshow.com. TNA Lockdown location announced. TNA President Dixie Carter announced via Twitter today that Lockdown 2012 will be held in Nashville, Tennessee on April the 15th.
Good for them.
This is going to be huge for TNA because now they're doing a pay-per-view in their backyard. I mean, this is where their corporate offices are out of. It's where the Jarretts and the Carters live.
It's where they did their weekly pay-per-views.
If they don't draw well in Nashville, it's not going to be good. I'm just saying.
Anything is possible. I think they should do well, though. Also, Ole Anderson comments on the Four Horsemen WWE Hall of Fame induction. Also bashes Vince McMahon.
I thought it'd be good.
One of the original members of the legendary Four Horsemen recently spoke to the Post and Carrier concerning the upcoming induction into the faction for the WWE Hall of Fame as part of the class of 2012. Here are some of these highlights. Vince McMahon hates my guts, and I don't like him. So that's all there is to it. To be a part of that, anyone knows with a brain who the first horsemen were. It was me, Arn, Rick, Tully Blanchard, and J.J. Dillon was the manager. So if they don't know that, they don't know anything about wrestling anyway.
There's been a lot of discussion about this whole controversy, if you will, over which iteration of the Horsemen is going to go into the Hall of Fame. It's the most successful, it's the most well-known members of the Horsemen that are going into the Hall of Fame. It makes so much sense in the world. Otherwise, you'd have 12 people standing up there, and you would see how diluted the brand got at some points. So, Ole, while I agree with him, he is one of the original members, but really, the Horsemen didn't take off on a national television scale until it was Arn Anderson replacing.
You know, I feel bad for Ole, but he did it to himself. At the end of the day, when you burn a bridge, that's the kind of stuff that's going to happen. Yep. You know, I mean, hey, Vince McMahon, he runs the wrestling world. When you bury Vince all the time, he's the guy that calls all the shots. If he doesn't want Ole Anderson in his Hall of Fame, well, then Ole Anderson won't be in Vince McMahon's Hall of Fame. Do you honestly think people are going to miss Ole Anderson at the Hall of Fame?
Not at all.
No, they're there to see Ric Flair.
Yep.
And Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. And I'm sure Ole will. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if they don't even mention Ole. I bet you the writers and Vince and the agent say, hey, they'll mention the guy by name.
I'm sure that they won't. Speaking of Ric Flair, he recently said that about the induction, it's amazing, it's very cool. The whole TNA crew was watching the vignette. I started crying when they aired it. We're going to blow the roof off, Flair said. So if there were any doubts as to whether Ric Flair was going to be in attendance, I think he's cleared that up. Shane Douglas also announced the Extreme Reunion. Former ECW World Champion Shane Douglas announced the Extreme Reunion event is going to take place Saturday, April the 28th at Philadelphia's National Golf Armory.
Wow.
Is that good news or bad news?
They did that before. I think it was pretty well received. And if you don't know, I think there was an event from Evolve this past weekend, which saw the closing of the last wrestling show. The last wrestling show at what was formerly known as the ECW Arena. So this event to be held in Philadelphia, but looks like somewhere other than the arena at the National Guard Armory, which screams wrestling, and I love it. So we'll see what happens.
Put it this way. Right now, this ECW reunion show, I don't know what they're trying to do anymore. I mean, most of these guys aren't in shape. It would be like me trying to do an AWA reunion show here in Milwaukee.
With
and
Vern
and Mad Dog Bashan and have the 70-year-old Baron von Raschke come down and General Skandar Akbar and Kenny Patera. I mean, come on. I mean, it means about the exact same thing. I mean, everyone has, I'm sure there are the ECW diehards, but as far as recapturing that glory, it is so far gone. I think what they need to do is just let it go and let the fans have the memories of how good it used to be as opposed to what it is right now.
Absolutely. Let's continue with the news.
WrestleMania not coming to Dallas, according to a spokesman. Dallas Observer asked Dallas Cowboys spokesman Brett Daniels if WWE WrestleMania would be held at the Cowboys Stadium within the next 2 years, and he said we can't host WrestleMania in the next 2 years because of the NCAA regional in 13 and Final Four in 14. We've talked with them and gave it a shot, but we couldn't make it work on the schedule. WrestleMania 29 is rumored to be hosted in New York at MetLife Stadium, which will make the first major entertainment event at the venue occurring before the scheduled Super Bowl to be held there.
That's a beautiful building. As you know, I was there for the Super Bowl last year. So I didn't have one of the seats that had to be removed, but a beautiful building. And it's very surprising about this New York thing. We should find out in the next couple of days if that's confirmed or not, because it's cold out there in April.
Oh, but all those people, it'll be fine.
Oh, yeah. That's a large stadium, by the way. That one holds, I think, 85, the new MetLife Stadium up in New York.
All right. And finally, Vince McMahon pulls CM Punk from the UFC event. Punk confirmed with MMAfighting.com that WWE Chairman Vince McMahon decided against allowing him to walk out of the cage for the January 28th fight. Thoughts on that, guys?
I have thoughts on it.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, would UFC let somebody from their company be a part of a WWE event? We haven't seen it.
It's bigger than that. It's much bigger than that. You know, if it was John Cena or The Rock or even Randy Orton or, let's say, Big Show as the E-champion, Vince would say, by all means, go ahead and walk in that cage because you are a larger-than-life superstar next to some of those MMA fighters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what? It all goes, and you know what? I'm sure I will get tons of heat, and I'm sure I'll be tagged in tweets. But at the end of the day, when you have CM Punk standing next to some of the MMA fighters, and some of those guys may be bigger, and some may be the exact same size. Vince always wants his champions to look larger than life. And why put him in a scenario where the MMA champion, whoever he may be in the ring with or talking to or whatnot, is larger than CM Punk? It defeats the illusion.
Great point.
You think it's that deep, though?
Absolutely. Vince McMahon protects the way his champions look. He never puts them in a spot where, put it this way, when have you ever seen a smaller champion in wrestling with a champion in football or baseball? Basketball is different because most of those guys are at least 6'6" to 7 feet tall. But he never puts his guys where they look smaller than other athletes.
Right. Oh, you're right. Well, thank you, Dwayne, for covering for Linda Kay with the news this week, and those articles are more details, including Ric Flair actually the video of him saying that he would indeed be at the Hall of Fame, and is all available at PWRshow.com. We're going to hop now right into the Impact segment and talk about Impact.
Now it's time to get the meltdown on last week's TNA Impact Wrestling, along with a preview of this Thursday's Sudden Impact Radio.
And that's right, it's time to talk Impact. Let's turn it over to the man they call Meathead and Dwayne Williams. Share with us what happened on Spike TV last Thursday night.
Well, last Thursday night we came right off the pay-per-view, and there was some, I guess we talked about the pay-per-view last week, Monday on the Meltdown, and we talked about how we had some endings, and we talked about how, this is in the Pritchard era, and we're actually going to move forward and do new things. Sorry, got the words crossed up. And I think we did that, Dwayne. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I thought we set some new programs in motion.
Absolutely. And it's about time.
Yeah, and especially, new programs and continuations of programs, because we saw the end of the wild card tournament with Matt Morgan and Crimson defeating Samoa Joe and Magnus, but Magnus and Samoa Joe were showing up in the tag team match afterwards, and they put a hardcore beat down on guys that technically looked unbeatable.
Yeah, definitely, and got some of their heat back. We're going to see this feud continue for the tag team golds for Impact Wrestling.
Yeah, and I also thought that we were done with a couple segments, and it was made to be not so. Garrett Bischoff is back on TV, folks, and we talked about it on Sun and Impact this last week.
He's a wrestler now, I understand.
We went on a bit of a soapbox, a bit of a diatribe, but when I get bored watching a program, doesn't matter if it's Raw, if it's TNA, whatever, I start to look at the other things. I hear all this cheering, and then I look in the background, and when Eric Bischoff was talking and Garrett was talking, I see people texting, talking to each other, really just looking bored out of their mind. And we talked about it, like I said again on Sudden Impact. If you're gonna, it's about production value. If you're going to pump in that crowd noise, give me some canned shots of people cheering, at least something, anything.
Yeah, I mean, Eric Bischoff coming out was just, I mean, the crowd not into it, not one bit. I mean, they didn't even care.
Right. Not that they not care. I don't think they knew. Because, again, from what I saw on the screen, it looked like the Universal crowd, not a wrestling crowd. It looked like a Universal crowd going, is something going to happen here? I mean, are they going to do things? Where's Hulk Hogan? Is probably what they're thinking to themselves. Or a vending machine somewhere around here? Because I need something to eat. That's really what was going on. But real quick, we're going to run down a little bit of...
you know what? That reminds me. We were at that Resistance Pro show. There was nothing there either. Very frustrating.
And, a guy like Dave Hero has got to get something going in him. He needs that fuel, that energy.
Absolutely, baby. I mean, come on.
Power fuel.
All we wanted was a hamburger, right, David?
Absolutely. I was begging for a hamburger.
The Jameson was easy to come by, but not a hamburger.
Yeah. Well, you can't go drinking without eating. You can't...
Well, those Jell-O shots were the killer, Damien. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I couldn't believe how you just took those down like a champ.
No, those were fine. It was the body shots off of those females we met that really did it.
With the Adam's apple.
No, that was the one you met. Continue on, Meathead.
Speaking about women, ODB, she's got a new love interest, and his name is EY, Eric Young, and they getting hot and heavy. ODB and EY, loving it, and I want to see more of it every week.
I'm sure we will, and the crowd very much into it. I definitely say one of the lowlights, and I know you didn't ask for it yet, but the fact that we got so many rematches from the pay-per-view.
No, you're absolutely right, and it's a good segue. And I've heard this mentioned by Dave, I've heard it mentioned by Damien, it's been tweeted out by many others. If I paid for that pay-per-view on Sunday, I'm hot about it, and I'm saying it because they gave 3 matches the following Thursday that I just paid for on pay-per-view. And if they paid for it in high definition, that was an extra $5, man. It's an extra 5 Skrilla.
Yeah, but you got that special Time Warner box.
AB.
How special it is.
AB.
AB for at least 30 seconds until I'm done. James Storm also wrestled Kurt Angle to become the #1 contender. Now we're going to find out what happens this week on TNA Wrestling Impact again. It's possible that James Storm may not be the #1 contender. There's maybe some shenanigans, to steal Dave Hero's line, with the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, as Bobby Roode also battled Jeff Hardy to a no contest after Bully Ray interfered. So Sting apparently announcing any cheating on the part of Roode would have meant the title goes bye-bye, so yeah. But it wasn't cheating on the part of Roode. It's actually cheating on the part of Bully Ray. So we'll see how that goes. Don't forget this week, Thursday, 10 o'clock Central, right after Impact goes off the air. You can join Dwayne, myself. We'll be doing Sudden Impact Radio.
Absolutely.
Dwayne, Meathead, thank you so much for that and for talking about Impact. And indeed, check out Sudden Impact Radio on Thursday nights right after Impact from the Pro Wrestling Report. David, you mentioned it a moment ago. We were at the Resistance Pro Show in Chicago at Excalibur on Friday night. Brand new champion crowned, and Harry Smith, D.H. Smith, is the first ever Resistance Pro champion. Saw some great talents there, including El Generico, Ring of Honor champion Davey Richards, and P.D. Williams, the man with the Canadian Destroyer, all part of that big show at Excalibur. And Resistance Pro returns to Chicago on February 17th. But a good show.
It was a good show. It was definitely a different type of atmosphere when you're in a nightclub and the ring's a little bit smaller, but Colt Cabana and Davey Richards had a rather entertaining match. It was hard to believe that the Ring of Honor Pure Wrestling champion lost to the comedic fellow Colt Cabana. Very interesting. Good match.
I don't know if he was ready for the shenanigans.
I was very surprised. You see, that for me, that was the thing. It's like, Cabana is all about shenanigans, and then you got Davey Richards, who really isn't. I didn't think those two guys were going to gel very well, but it was actually very, very entertaining. And plus, they had De Niro Jr. at ringside with him.
He did bear a striking resemblance to Robert De Niro.
Well, I think his name is Tony Kozina. I think that's the name on the back of his jacket, but I could be wrong.
It was a good show. We want to thank all the people at Resistance Pro for having us down there. And again, their next show, February 17th. But before that, David Hero, January 29th, GLCW returns to the Horny Goat Hideaway in Milwaukee for a big wrestling show, followed by a free viewing of the WWE Royal Rumble. It's a Sunday afternoon that's not worth missing. That's worth not missing, rather, come January 29th, Royal Rumble Sunday. And also, that's the day where the Wrestling Radio Awards are going to be announced. As you know, I am the sitting host of the year as far as wrestling radio goes, and you can go and vote for whomever you may choose, including some of the great interviews the Pro Wrestling Report has conducted over the past 12 months at WrestlingRadioAwards.com. Again, that's WrestlingRadioAwards.com. We're not necessarily telling you to vote for us, but we are telling you to go over and vote and support the genre, if you will, of wrestling radio and show your great support for all the great shows that are out there. And we hope that you tend to do it for this one, the Pro Wrestling Report.
You know what? I mean, Damien, I know one of the interviews we that were nominated for is one with Kevin Nash. That was the night after he returned into the Royal Rumble.
You want to talk about some exclusives that we got, that being one of them last year. Kevin Nash spoke to us the night after he returned to the Rumble. A good 45-minute conversation. It was amazing. And the things he talked about, again, if you go back and listen to that interview, you'll hear him talk about a lot of stuff that ended up happening in WWE. And I would have to say our interview just some 7-8 months later with Jeff Hardy, which was the first interview that he had given since his March Victory Road incident. Again, both exclusive from the Pro Wrestling Report. Yep. Mean Gene Okerlund also joining us. Several great nominations over at WrestlingRadioAwards.com. And in an effort to satisfy as many people as you can, we have time for 2 more phone calls. So we're going to hop back into the phone zone, and we're going to go to 2 people who have been waiting on hold the longest. Our first one comes to us from the 718 area code. Caller from the 718. What's your name and where are you calling from? And we are going to give but one try. So let's go to the 856 area code. Caller from the 856. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, guys. This is Joe calling from New Jersey.
Hey, Joe from New Jersey. What do you have for us?
I want to talk about a couple of things. First, on Monday Night Raw, you guys are making a joke about how Perez Hilton was on and stuff, but you also mentioned he's one of the biggest bloggers ever.
Mm-hmm.
So this, it wasn't obvious that this was probably one of the best Raws in a while.
Right.
So you think Perez Hilton had anything to do with it?
No, Joe, I don't think so at all.
Really?
How would he have had anything to do with it?
Well, as there was a part at the end when Mr. Sacco found its way into David Otunga's mouth. Now, David Otunga is very big outside of wrestling due to the fact that he's married to Jennifer Hudson.
Yeah.
So that could have something to do with Perez Hilton, maybe.
Perez Hilton was. Where was tonight's show? It was in L.A., right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's where Perez Hilton lives. He's out in L.A. It was just a convenience thing. Hell, Mr. Belding was sitting in the front row. You know what I mean? Perez Hilton did not move the dial. Perez Hilton, he's not even that big of a wrestling fan. And I'll be honest. He did not pick up any new viewers. I'm sure when the ratings come out tomorrow or later tonight, it will be very similar to what it was last week. It was just a way of getting more crossover media where for the next 24 hours, Perez Hilton is going to be a big mark for himself and have all of his pictures with all the different wrestlers and all the cute guys that he finds to be cute and attractive on his website.
Wow. Was that necessary? Really? I'm sure you got some pictures with some divas.
Website?
Actually, I have never been to his website.
Penises on the guys and all that kind of fun.
Moving right along, ladies and gentlemen, our next caller comes to us from the 608 area code. Caller, what's your name?
It's not very PC. I don't know what Vince McMahon was thinking about.
This is Troy Dean calling from Madison, Wisconsin.
Hey there, Troy.
Here's a guy that knows.
What's going on, hero? So,
for you, man.
Real quick, I'll make this fast. I got a couple comments about the whole Horseman thing. I understand what you guys are saying, but you also have to understand that, the reason why Barry Windham came into the Horseman so hot is because he had turned down Luger, who was a Horseman before him, and Luger had a pretty productive career with the Horseman and outside the Horseman. That's number one. Number two, I have this big gripe with TNA right now with their TV title, and I know it's like a secondary title, but I feel if they put the title on somebody like Ken Anderson, it'd be more relevant. It'd be like when Tully Blanchard held the TV title in the NWA. He'd be a face on TV a little bit more and make the belt a little bit more relevant. And number 3, before I hang up, is I know everybody has The Undertaker on a legend status, you know, because he's been wrestling so long and what he's done. But is it fair to say you can treat Sting the same way, because at one point he carried WCW by himself when Undertaker had other people to work with? That's all I have to say. Thank you guys for taking my call, and you can go ahead and answer the questions and make your comments.
Thank you very much for that call from out in Madison, Wisconsin. Troy. David, I'll let you take a stab at that one.
WCW with Ric Flair. I mean, it's kind of hard to not carry a company when with those two guys doing business together. I don't know. I mean, Taker and Sting, I guess they're real similar. You know, both guys. Well, Taker came over from WCW. Sting never left. But I don't know. I think Taker's a bigger star than Sting.
There's no doubt.
Career.
Now, at one point, and I think, well, yeah, definitely Undertaker's a bigger star and more substantial star.
When Sting had an opportunity to have this big Starrcade match with Hogan, and Sting finally shows up in the ring and took that jacket off, and obviously he hadn't been in the gym the entire time he was off. He obviously hadn't got any sun the entire time he was off. The people were disappointed. They were hoping to see a jacked-up Sting, and they got Sting light. And I think from that point forward is when Sting's career went downhill. I mean, yeah, he's the icon because he was a WCW mainstay, and he was treated with respect and got a great payday. But Taker always showed up. He always looked ready. He always was ready, and you know that's why Taker gets so much respect. That's why he's still there. That's why he can take a whole year off in between matches now, because he's earned it.
Well, thank you for that call, Troy, out in Madison, and we are out of time, David Hero, for this week's edition of the Monday Night Meltdown, and a lot definitely going on in professional wrestling. A good episode of Raw tonight from WWE on the USA Network, and we go into SmackDown this Friday, and then into Raw again next Monday night. It's really an active time of year for WWE, and business, as JR always says, picked up. And you can continue along with the conversation and follow the Pro Wrestling Report on Twitter, on Facebook, and right here on Blog Talk Radio as well. For Matthew, Thomas, Dwayne Williams, the man they call Meathead, David Hero, and Linda Kay, this is Damian Nelson saying thank you so much for tuning in to the Monday Night Meltdown right here on Blog Talk Radio. We'll see you next week.
Don't forget to follow PWR right here on Blog Talk Radio right now. Be reminded of upcoming episodes and never miss Blog Talk Radio's most popular sports show. Follow PWR now.